Hello, today's June 10th, and we're doing business in robot.
Is there a fire?
There was, yeah. I just wanted to get it out there. Just
She just
push it
had
out there.
2 cups of coffee so she won't yawn.
Oh, that
I
keyboard's
am
still on the
drinking coffee.
desk.
Oh no.
You never saw that, chap.
I
So
can't know.
the big uproar in the country right now. Have you guys seen this on the news?
No,
There's something happening.
I went to a monastic retreat and
People are angry. People are angry, and probably one of the most entertaining things about it is how the giant corporations are stumbling all over themselves, trying to figure out how to A, not fall afoul of this rage, and B, how to capitalize on it. How do we make this work in our favor is the big question. Reddit has an interesting, and this is really just one man's action, I guess, not really the company, although I don't think anybody's like begging him to stay.
Reddit co-founder Ohanian, I hope I'm saying that right.
Ohanian?
Yeah, has resigned from the board and urges the company to replace him with a black candidate. Now, I interpreted this as he's resigning because Reddit was trying to capitalize on it, and he was like, "I'm out. This is crazy. You need somebody in here because this is nuts. Like what you're trying to do to like participate in this, it's so tone deaf. I'm out."
I don't know. Although, now this is a board seat, right?
Yeah.
That's not the same as employment, but wouldn't there be laws against selecting a specific race of candidate for a job? Reddit said they're going to do it. They've agreed.
That's probably good for them.
Biden has also done that with his vice presidential candidate. He's guaranteed it's going to be a woman. Pretty sure that's illegal. You're not supposed to use those things to make hiring decisions. We'll see. Meanwhile, all the other companies in the world, not all of them, but most of them, just were scrambling. They had to do something. They had to signal somehow that they were one of the cool kids and they were part of this. You know, they weren't giant evil corporations just trying to get you to buy their products. No. They're working with you. They're here to help.
Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and Amazon unite in support of Blackout Tuesday, following a call to action from the music industry. Okay, what did they do? It varies. Not a lot, really.
There was a lot of making you wait 8 minutes and 50 some seconds, which is the amount of time it took George Floyd to die. Sometimes they would just delay that on their website. Sometimes they would actually just cancel things altogether. Oddly enough, the gaming companies had an interesting take on it. This is from the Take-Two ones, but there were more than this. Call of Duty, I think, didn't
Yeah.
they? Yeah.
GTA Online, Red Dead Online, and etc. will temporarily go offline in honor of George Floyd. 2-hour server shutdown also extends to NBA 2K. Now, okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, thanks.
I guess
Couldn't you have donated some money to like the bail funds or something?
maybe it got the Twitch viewers to look at the news for 2 hours.
Now, Krista brings up an interesting point. A lot of the Hollywood types are paying the bails of people that are arrested, which I thought was a far better use of time and resources.
Well, most people, your average GTA Online gamer can't do that. They don't have those resources.
Well, but Take-Two, I mean, all the funny money. I mean, they could have bailed out all of Los Angeles.
I think there was another story. I think I put it in nonsense though. Anyway, Amazon. Now, when the pandemic started, we got this interesting, I guess, not for the first time, but it really brought it into perspective of, in real time, we got to see where the mindset of the population was going based on what was being eagerly hoarded through Amazon.
Toilet paper.
And other online places. Well, you know what's weird is the toilet paper is back, but the Clorox wipes, I don't think we're ever going to get Clorox wipes back.
Or Nestle water.
I really want to use, I need Clorox wipes to clean the litter box once a week. And I'm having to use spray, and I don't like it. I'm wasting so many paper towels here. But it was interesting because, it's like, oh, wow. you can just watch those prices go up minute after minute. You can see things selling out. And the protests were not an exception.
Pepper spray. Amazon shoppers are snatching up pepper spray as the protests continue. This is like why. This makes about as much sense as toilet paper. I don't get this.
No, I would imagine if you're protesting, maybe you could pepper spray the cops back.
Exactly.
Is that the thinking? Like,
Yeah, but then that would probably turn lethal really quickly.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the video where the cops are... It's some sort of like tiered like stairs or something, and they're all like, it's like an auditorium type deal, and they're just like rank after rank. They're standing there, and someone throws a water bottle, but the bottle doesn't even hit them. Just a splash of water.
yeah,
They immediately,
I don't even think the bottle was in the frame. It literally was just water.
You just see the splash of water. Immediately, they pull up the beanbag shotguns and just start firing into the crowd. So I imagine if you pepper spray them, it's gonna go down. But
Not even the worst video I've seen this week.
it could also be protecting your home and stuff from looters, maybe. Because a lot of this great nation is not actually free, and this is the most, dangerous thing you can get for your home.
I already had pepper spray.
You have bear spray.
No, mine is just regular pepper spray. Keep it in my purse.
Bear spray is more potent, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Why not always just go with bear spray?
because it's heavy.
Oh, of course.
Gotta keep it ultra light, right?
Well,
Gotta hit that base weight.
that might not. Well, I guess that would be a big deal if you're marching.
Yeah, if you're carrying a lot of stuff, you don't want a ton of crap on your back.
I see a lot of those National Guard guys in that full gear. How
Yeah.
miserable must that be?
Pretty miserable. I
And
mean,
in the heat too.
Although, like all the military people are out there is like, oh yeah, try that in Fallujah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Amazon, of course, no matter what the crisis is, it seems like Amazon is poised to gain from it, because 2020 has been a hell of a run so far, and Amazon at every crazy wild card is like, yep, we'll take your money for that. Of course, yes. We'll just go stronger with all of this horrible stuff that's happening. And one particular man has had enough.
Musk says it's time to break up Amazon, fueling Bezos feud. Yeah, it's very small. It's hard to read because the whole
Subscribe
to Bloomberg.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also hit that subscribe button.
This was in response to somebody tweeted that their book had been pulled, and Musk replied and said, "That's it. Bezos does not get to control what books I read." But then Amazon said, "Oops, our bad. It's been reinstated."
The book was like truths about the protest.
Yeah.
So they were pointing out some of the hypocrisy. I think it sort of it didn't agree with the narrative. Like it pointed out some of the hypocrisy about the social distancing that just doesn't matter all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And that Amazon people were just like, nope, just get rid of it. We don't want it. But on further review, I think the truth will set you free. The author was just like, well, all right, prove me wrong. It's all.
And then they put it back.
But Musk has had enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got a point.
Doesn't everyone care what he thinks? So I mean,
Yeah, they kind
we
of
should all listen
do.
to him.
Yeah.
He's part of that, like that Joe Rogan resistance that's building. Like, don't tread on me, 2020. I don't know. I kind of agree with it. I mean, if you're going to go straight down the Constitution, it is Amazon's right to block whatever book they want. But we're in a situation where going to an actual bookstore is kind of difficult sometimes. So,
Especially right now.
Yeah.
I'll say, are there any bookstores open yet? I don't know about how everyone's reopened yet.
Yeah, I think they can be.
They can sell books online, but they don't have the infrastructure.
But what bookstores are left?
Yeah.
There's so few. And now there is a caveat here, a big one. But let's just celebrate it before we rain on the parade.
Tesla Model 3 was California's best-selling automobile through the first quarter. The electric sedan found more buyers than any rivaling luxury car and even the mass-market sedans and crossovers. They sold more than the Camry, more than the Corolla,
Civic was
more than the
number
Honda
2.
Civic, but only by about 500 cars. And the article is quick to point out, oh, wait, the dealerships have been closed.
You buy Teslas online. You don't buy other cars online.
Yeah.
So, still, it is impressive, even if you look at it in terms of, like this is a very niche thing. Like we talked about in the previous episode, finding a charger, not always simple.
18,000 Model 3s, I think. That's what it said.
So,
Which is a lower number than I would have expected, although I guess that's just California.
right. It's just in California. Although California's got to be their biggest state, right? Got to be.
I would think so. Yeah.
You know what's funny? They pointed out, aside from the Civic, like the next big cars were the Camry, Corolla, RAV4, and some other Toyota. And those are all cars my parents have owned. They're like just the most basic humans in the world when it comes to car choices.
I get it. I just want a vehicle that can take me from point A to point B and ideally has air conditioning.
When the first time I took my car home, which is a little ostentatious, my mom was just like, she looks like this had just pure confusion. She was like, why would you buy that? What's wrong with you? And speaking of electric cars, it's weird. Do you remember maybe like a year or two ago when Tesla was like first starting to hit its stride? All of these other car companies were like, yeah, we got one. It's in the pipeline, going to be here in a year. And here we are.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Where are they? I think Mercedes has got one, right? Some of those European car companies have a couple. And
there's a lot of projects we covered that have been canceled.
yeah, Chevy had the Volt, and then I think there's a couple of other domestic car companies have something, but they're definitely not really exploding in popularity. But they're going to keep announcing them, I guess.
GM is planning an electric van for business users in a bid to preempt Tesla. So this is happening in Detroit, and it's like, we want an electric delivery vehicle that's like the Amazon Prime vehicle. There's some details here, but there are some warning signs here maybe about the technology. So,
Oh, what a lovely picture.
it's struggled.
Reuters is maybe a little over capacity right now. A lot of people looking for news.
I think we've covered this in the past, like the Rivian or Rivan or something like that.
Is it the same one? I don't
think
know.
so.
They're just looking. Oh yeah.
Rivian, yeah.
$4 billion for Amazon.
We'll see.
So yeah, but the last time we talked about it, I feel like it was, oh no, that's totally almost ready.
Yeah.
And Tesla's got nothing. We're going to have it out. But here we are.
Yeah.
And we don't see them. So, say what you will about Mr. Musk, he is delivering cars. That one was a little late. When is the truck scheduled?
I don't know if they've said 2021, I think.
Is it that long?
I think so.
He'll make his workers do anything to get a deadline.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fan of Mr. Musk by any stretch of the imagination, but I got to eat a little crow because here everybody's just abandoned the distancing thing.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to matter. Is protesting any more important than building cars? That's
I would argue yes.
it's subjective.
Cars aren't a necessity.
We'll know in
Protesting
about,
for basic rights kind of is.
what is it? What's the average incubation time? 3 to 12 days? We'll know in about 3 to 12.
14.
2 weeks. Another
So it's
2
been
weeks.
10, right?
10 days, yeah.
There was that was one of the sidebar. That was one of the really scary things here is because they're testing all the long-term care facilities, and there are a couple of employees of the long-term care facilities that are testing positive and infectious, and they have been for 3 weeks now, and they're asymptomatic.
Ooh.
Well, it's like the angel of death is wiping your butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, remember when the biggest thing we had to worry about in this country was net neutrality? Remember those wonderful days? Well,
or the Australian wildfires were like the worst thing going on in 2020.
we lost that battle. And a lot of the voices were apocalyptic, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to destroy the internet as we know it." And when that didn't happen, people got a little complacent. But these things take time to ramp up.
Yeah. HBO Max won't hit AT&T data caps, but Netflix and Disney Plus will. Now, HBO was quick to point out, it's like, hey, we pay AT&T, and AT&T was quick to say, hey, anybody can pay us. But AT&T owns HBO, so no money actually really changes hands. Think about that.
They just draw a check with crayon and mail it to the other guys. It's a gag.
Yeah. It's like your ISP is selling you a certain amount of bandwidth, and you are literally not getting that unless somebody else pays to be able to deliver that. Otherwise, you're relegated to the 1.5 megabit Netflix stream. They literally have already done that.
And as has been proven during the pandemic, it doesn't cause the network to break down if they remove those.
No.
Because they have.
AT&T is in the unfortunate position of having done 2 or 3 colossally stupid things, where colossally stupid is defined as probably making $100 billion plus mistake, and the subscribers that remain with AT&T and their satellite TV counterpart are shouldered with paying that burden off, paying that business blunder off, but also paying for infrastructure upgrades and that kind of thing. I got news for you. TV and content is getting cheaper, not more expensive, and those subscribers are not going to be willing to shoulder the cost to the extent that they're going to be able to pay back and have shareholder value. This is the only thing they can do. They play games with the network in order to recoup that revenue.
Well, that's not the only thing they can do. The other thing they can do is to make the copyright laws as draconian and evil as they can to try and...
So they get a cut of the copyright abuse?
to stop us from
Yeah.
doing what the reasonable person would do, which is just to go and get the free version of it. The Team Plandemic is probably having a hell of a week because a lot of their predictions are kind of playing out. We kind of just sort of abandoned the whole social distancing thing all at once, and it went from headline news to nobody cares anymore. And it seems like a lot of the big companies are quick to adapt to that.
CES will be held in person in Las Vegas next year, they announced. Other companies are canceling their large conferences. So a lot of companies have announced that they're not even going to go back to work in 2020, like just through the rest of the year. Just let's see what 2021 looks like. I have a feeling that CES will change its plans, but they do go on to say that there will be sanitizer and you get the masks, and they're taking precautions. It's not going to be like 2019 was. But CES is like, we need you here.
But what about the hotel rooms and the cabs?
Yeah.
And, it's bigger than that. Now, like we said earlier, there's going to be a very telling moment, probably midweek. Actually, as you watch this,
yeah,
right? That'll be day 13 or 14. Now, I guess you have to add a day because I'm counting since the death, not since the beginning of the protests.
Yeah.
Let's say we do +3 because the protests really started to cook like 3 days in. So by Friday of this week, let's say, we should start to see something.
I would think.
A spike.
If that's in the cards.
Locally, we're already seeing numbers that are getting kind of scary because the restrictions started to lift here.
Yeah, well, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's 2 weeks after Memorial Day at this point.
Yeah.
That's why we're seeing a spike now.
Yeah.
Now, if we get a second wave, where is the tipping point where you stop protesting?
As soon as the ICU starts to fill up again.
That's going to be an interesting thing.
The poor old people.
Obviously, a lot of businesses are getting crushed by the pandemic, and many of them would welcome the change, obviously, to try to get some sort of money out of 2020. And we see more and more numbers that keep popping up that just show us how crazy it was.
Global smartphone shipments fall 12% this year on woes about the virus, according to the IDC. So it makes sense. You're at home. There's a couple people that just don't even have a cell phone anymore. They're like, I've got a phone at home. I never leave home. Why do I need a cell phone? I'll just put it to sleep. So they're on the cheapest plan you can possibly get, no data and 50 minutes a month, and it's $5.
No tracking.
Yeah, and it's why would I don't need anything else. Why would I want to pay for that? It's $100 a month I could save.
Yeah, I guess. But what about texting?
Yeah.
Are you not
You can still
sending
text
news?
the dumb phone.
That's through Twitter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now, we covered this story before a little bit. When the pandemic happened, obviously the library shut down. You can't go to a library. Have they opened those up yet?
Mostly no.
So if you are somebody who depends on a library to do your reading, which is kind of considered not a human right, but it's like one of the, it's part of being an American, right? You can go and you can
Check out a book from the
literature.
library.
Literature is part of it.
Yeah.
It's we pay for this. It's like a enrichment of our world. Well, that's off the table. So a lot of places were like, you know what, we're going to go and we're going to fill in that gap digitally. And this one is straight from the horse's mouth. The publishing companies, not a fan.
Publishers file suit against the Internet Archive for systematic mass scanning and distribution of literary works, and they ask the court to enjoin and deter willful infringement. So this is kind of disgusting because the Internet Archive has actually taken steps to make sure that like mass distribution is not really a thing. Initially, they had controls on the works that would, you checked out the work and it was only good for a week or two. And they did it sort of electronically. So like a lot of local libraries are shut down, and the Internet Archive is plugged into a lot of local libraries. So they said, hey, you guys are shut down. How many copies of X book do you have? And they're like, 30 copies. And they're like, great, we're going to add 30 more copies that can be checked out at once for you guys. And so publishers were like, what? You're some other library has given you, the right to just, no, that's not how that works. You can't do that. So, because it's the Internet Archive is not that library. So maybe it's a technicality, but I think publishing companies they need to not do this.
And they have these crazy rules about when a book comes out, it's limited. The library copies are limited to a very low number for a certain amount of time. And that didn't get applied here, whatever, but yeah.
I don't think there's anything in law that requires a library to buy a special copy of the book. They just do it to try to, not poke the bear.
Oh. I can definitely see if you're an author, because these days I don't think authors, unless you're super popular, are making any money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's words.
Unless something changed, the open letter, the Internet Archive actually published an open letter in response to this before it actually became a lawsuit. And in that letter, they said that they were not publishing any works newer than 5 years unless the author specifically requested to be included in the collection. And then the author was like, well, you can have 100 copies. You can loan out 100 copies. And so the Internet Archive would allow patrons to check out a protected copy of the work that was good for up to 2 weeks. But of course, somebody could return it sooner. And other than that, nothing newer than 5 years old or older was in the archive.
Now, I've been accused of being a fan of what some people would describe as Aspie games, especially on Twitch. I got Dwarf Fortress is the granddaddy, Cataclysm, Dominions. Those games were like the spreadsheet games, stuff like that.
And there's no graphics; it's just text and stats.
Windows way into Stellaris, which is kind of like that. If you can play it like that.
It's a 4X, yeah.
So, but these are games that people are fiercely committed to, and you can just lose weeks into these things if you feel like it. And one of those, I played it a little bit. I really didn't get into it on that level, but I could definitely see it's like, wow, you could really commit some of a non-trivial part of your life to this if you wanted to. Was Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah.
And
I've heard
it's
that.
an amazing simulation of all of the aeronautics and stuff. And if you are one of those people, you probably already have heard about this, but it's probably also making you furious.
Kerbal Space Program 2 released disrupted by corporate strife. So what happened here is the publishing company that was sort of funding this or helping fund this just decided to stop paying the developers developing the game, and then tried to hire the developers that were developing the game from the company that was developing the game to just work directly for their studio, which seems kind of underhanded and shady.
Now, this is Take-Two, who are the publishers of the big Rockstar games, so this is not a small company. How much did GTA make?
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
I think it got into the B, didn't it?
Yeah,
I
probably.
think over at this point. So This is not like a struggling publisher trying to, make ends meet. This is the only contract this company had was Kerbal Space Program 2. And, it's one of those games where, like, I don't think the graphics are going to blow you away, or the gameplay isn't like, super crisp, but you do have to spend an ungodly amount of time designing it all, because there's all these little tiny spaceship parts. It's incredible. It's like Legos. And Take-Two said, you know what, we're going to cancel that. Since that's your only project, we're going to email all of your employees and invite them to work for us. And oh, by the way, we're making Kerbal Space Program 2. What are you going to do about it?
Oh, I think we've experienced some things like that before, where it's just like,
At the time of the article, a third of the employees had taken the bait.
yeah.
So it pretty much destroys that tiny game company. Sad. There's going to be some
Rip in peace.
Steam review bombs on that one.
Yeah.
And you know what that's going to mean? Nothing. It never does. It never means anything.
The Kerbal Space Program 2 is going to be so good that everybody's going to forget about that.
Yeah.
Which is sad, really. I mean, this is like...
I can't begin to tell you how angry I was at how Red Dead Redemption was so broken and buggy on the PC. But I still played it. It's so good.
A lot, too. How many hours did you put into that?
I got to go back to that. I always forget about that.
I was just imagining, like, Take-Two Interactive buys, like, Stellaris, and then, tries to hire in the Stellaris people to work on Stellaris 2 or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's making me irrationally angry.
But are you going to play Stellaris 2?
I would still play Stellaris 2.
That's the
It's
thing.
just, but no. And that makes me more angry.
No, I'm angry at myself. Canada. Canada has kind of been dragged into the old U.S.-China dogfight. And for the most part, you got to give them credit. There are bros to the north. They're on our side right now. But there's a lot of Chinese people that live in Canada. So they have sort of that, whole dual citizen thing going on, which is, that's a voting base. And one of the big ones, and this used to be every headline. Remember when this was every headline?
This was, yeah. Well, those days would be nice to have again.
5G is back in the headlines.
Canadian major telcos have effectively locked out Huawei technology out of their 5G build-out. It was the decision of Bell and Telus to shift to Ericsson and Nokia, which left Huawei with no major carrier customers in the Great White North. This is probably good news for Canadian citizens, and good news for those Chinese nationals.
Yeah, so this wasn't like a government mandate or anything like that. This was just the businesses themselves choosing to exclude Huawei, because who needs the headache, right?
Yeah.
Now, the police are, I would say, at a low in popularity, at least this century. There was that whole, was it 96?
Yeah.
A little bit of, I feel like this is way more prevalent though.
Yeah.
And like I said, one of my favorite things is Krista just slowly turning anti-police. And I'm like, yes, yes, Krista, embrace it. Embrace the dark side. Even though it's not the dark side, it's the light side. They're not your friend. And so it is now becoming, for a while there, that hero worship just turned my stomach. It was like, oh, thank you for your service. And, cops is like, oh, cops eat free. Not anymore. And now it's the opposite. You have to try and hide the fact that you supported the enemy at some point.
Slack has removed a blog post showing how police use its tech. Slack is that the glorified chat program, basically. It's really popular, though. IBM has like 350,000 users that are using it, or 350,000 employees. It's a communication program. And this almost, you read the article about what the blog post used to say, and it almost reads like a Saturday Night Live skit. It's like, oh, we can use Slack for, communicating and make sure the teams are all up to date on everything that's going on, and we can just store everything in one place. And, if somebody's out for a couple of days, they can come back and read the chat of what's transpired in whatever channel and be up to speed on stuff. And it is a convenient way of consuming information. It always has been. It's glorified IRC on the web. But working with law enforcement, it's not the end thing to do now.
And they point, like you say, it's IRC. Basically, it's IRC. And they would create channels that would relate to, it's like, oh, we're doing a prostitution sting in, Austin, Texas. what do you have information about that? And if you were working on something similar to that, you'd go into that channel and you would share information. Or if you were looking, it's like, oh, we're doing, a drug sting in this area. Do you have drug cases here? And then so they would really help them put all the pieces together. Because one of the interesting things about, it kind of points out from the whole protest thing, is that the different kinds of police get very angry if you mistake them for another kind of police. Because I've been watching a lot of those interviews, and they be like, "Oh, how long have you been with the police force, sir?" It's like, "I'm a sheriff's deputy, ma'am." Like, oh, calm down there, man.
I saw that with the military people. Like, no, I'm not part of the police force. I'm with the National Guard.
Exactly.
I'm with whatever.
I kind of understand that a little bit better. It's like, oh, don't loop me in with those people.
Yeah, well, that's just kind of like, yeah. But this, I think, creates a sort of situation where they normally wouldn't associate with each other and share things, and now all of a sudden they are.
Mm.
So, for good or for ill, I guess. And they are still doing it. It's not like Slack stopped working with them. They just deleted the blog post where they were bragging about it. Now this, you used the delivery thing, but you used the one that's like built into the store, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever used?
Nope.
Yeah. And which one did you use, Krista?
We use just like the Meyer default.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you get the option to tip in your version?
Yes.
Really? Does it work like this?
I don't remember.
So Instacart has a very unique way of tipping. And I've always thought this about buying a pizza with a credit card. You tip up front. But how do I know?
Yeah.
How do I know if you're going to...
Yeah.
And once you've already got my tip, are you less motivated?
What if you spit on my pizza and I've already tipped you?
Instacart makes changes to tip policy following shopper complaints. So we've covered this before, where people would put their shopping orders together and be like, there's a $40 tip on this. And so the order would get put together and then delivered immediately. And then they would change the tip to zero.
We should point out that in Instacart, it's kind of like an auction system.
Oh, yeah.
Where you go in and you're like, I'll take that order. So how do you get your order to the top?
A massive tip.
Yeah, you promise a big tip. But there's a catch.
Yeah. But you can change the tip later, which a lot of people were doing.
3 days.
So
Well, Instacart says no. Instacart says less than 5% we're doing that.
that's a lot.
So you throw up a $40 tip to get, like a case of beer. You get it in a flash and they're like, oh, thank you. Oh, I love you. They're kissing your feet. You close the door, drop that down to 50 cents.
Or zero, as the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Instacart people, the shoppers, it's weird because the Instacart shopper is Instacart and the customer is not the shopper. It's like the terminology here just twisted.
The
my
Instacart
mind.
shopper is an independent contractor. Let's not for
when-
tax purposes.
When you see the word shopper, though, you think end customer.
Yeah.
But it's not the case.
No.
Anyway, the shoppers were outraged because, they'd get these big juicy contracts and all of a sudden the money just disappeared.
Yeah. Wasn't this also a skit on Seinfeld? Like I can't remember George Newman, is that right? Is that the No, it's
Costanza.
not George Costanza. His character would put the tip on the table in cash, and then every time the waiter would mess up, they would take money away. Something like that.
Oh.
I don't know.
I've seen people do that for real.
Yeah.
That's based on reality. Also in cinema, one of the great moments in cinema about tipping is the tipping conversation from Reservoir Dogs. If you've not seen Reservoir Dogs, check that out. Now, the companies, they did the whole Tuesday blackout thing, and they're jumping on board to try to figure out how can we get on the right side of this protest thing? How can we make ourselves? And the guys at Razer, no one, they didn't get the memo. They're working from home. They haven't been watching TV, and they took this to the marketing team, and the marketing team was like, "What is this? What is this? April?
Is this an April Fool's Day press?"
Come on, guys, get with it. We're not doing this anymore."
Razer is enabling gamers to donate masks to frontline workers by gaming. How, you ask? It's mining cryptocurrency in the background.
That's not part of it. It's
All
Razer,
right.
Razer Cortex, and I guess they're probably just farming information, you think?
It says Razer Silver is a virtual currency gamers earn when they run the Cortex game optimization software and play eligible games.
Well, how do they benefit from it? They got to be pulling stats about your
Something.
usage, right? And selling that?
I think it's mining cryptocurrency.
I guess. So they've got silver, but they've also got gold.
You gotta buy gold.
Yeah, it's the premium currency.
Yeah.
And so you can use your funny money to get, it's like Marble points,
Yeah.
but with video games
You can also get free Razer products.
or software. Or if you don't want those things, you can choose to donate masks and stuff like that. Masks are back in stock on Amazon.
I saw him at Meijer yesterday.
Yeah, we're past that. Because you know why? Because nobody's using them.
That is very disturbing. Although I've been very
Honestly,
happy that every drive-through that I've gone through, they've been wearing masks. I've been very thankful for
Yeah,
that.
they do. And they
Just that-
bring the card reader to you. I like that.
Krista?
Listen, they still have them at Meijer. Everyone's still wearing them. When I went yesterday, I'd say probably about 70% of the crowd still had masks.
Really? I felt like it was more maybe like 50 or 40.
On. Not
the
on
crowd.
Saturday when I went.
I went on Saturday too.
Oh, weird.
Well, this is an interesting piece of news, and I think we've done a lot of stories like this, but this is the first one that gives me a little bit of hope, because this is not just a company saying that, oh, we're going to give you an option for Linux. This is a company saying that, no, we are going to work on getting the drivers to work. We're going to actually submit code and figure out how to make these fingerprint readers and all these display drivers and stuff. We're actually going to put this effort in for Linux on desktop and laptop computers.
Lenovo's massive Ubuntu and Red Hat announcement levels up Linux in 2020. So it's an entire lineup of desktops, laptops, and servers that are going to run Linux. And more importantly, Lenovo is committed to full driver support for all the hardware, just like you said. So this isn't really a big announcement. I mean, this isn't just one or two specialty products like Dell's get the, XPS laptop Ubuntu edition, and it's like, no. I mean, what? Can I get this, super ridiculous server with Red Hat Enterprise Linux? Maybe not from Dell. No, Lenovo's all in. So this is going to be pretty interesting to see it come to fruition.
And that's what you got to have. You got to have the big corporations taking it seriously, and you got to have the game makers taking it seriously.
I also thought Lenovo, in some of the questions that they have been asked by the press, their responses were pretty cogent in that Lenovo says, like, look, this is not mass market exactly yet, but there are a lot of data scientists and researchers and academics and people like that are buying a lot of these machines for their work and their research. And so good Linux compatibility out of the box is important to those people, and those are the people we're going to support with these products. And it kind of makes sense.
And by being the first to do this, they now have an army of Aspies behind them who are going to do everything they can to help them out. That's an inexhaustible number of hours for very committed individuals who will help with this effort if they'll let them.
There are some amazingly committed individuals out there who are testing like every little minor thing. It's like, I'm going to test the variations of like this instruction on this processor from this family to this. And it's like, wow, it's genuinely very impressive.
You imagine that it's like at the Lenovo test center, some guy, he takes his badge and he scans in and he walks in and they're like, we can't find you on the payroll. And he's like, no, I just made my own badge.
I run a wiki. And
I'm just here to help. Don't worry. If you could get me a lunch, that would be nice.
It's surprising how much of the world is powered by individuals like that. It's really genuinely very impressive.
So yeah, if you want to jump into the Linux ecosystem, but you've always been afraid because it's like, oh God, something's not going to work and I don't have the time to deal with that, then maybe a year from now, Lenovo will have a perfect solution for you. For now, it might be a little bit of a headache, but if you call them up, they'll help you. Yeah. And that's kind of a first.
Well, they're probably also looking around at how many companies like System 76 and other companies like that support, the whole Linux ecosystem, like the Librem phone, there's a lot of Linux-based products where the draw is we've gotten everything to work right with Linux, and we've done a lot of work. And System 76 has done a lot of the same kind of integration work that you're talking about and leaned on people to support that.
But the scale.
Yeah. Lenovo's
Isn't Lenovo number one in laptops
yes.
right now? Yeah.
They're number one It's a Chinese-owned company, so they've got the Chinese efficiency going for them, depending on how you want to interpret that and slice the numbers on that. But they are producing a lot of systems.
You can be sure that the operating system isn't spying on you. The operating system. Not so sure about the hardware. We talked about Slack and their somewhat red-faced admission about working with the cops. And that's sad for them. But like everybody else who's in the communication business, the pandemic has been huge for them. And it's allowed them to expand to compete with some of the other services who are killing it.
Slack partners with Amazon to take on Microsoft Teams. Slack is switching to Amazon Chime for voice and video calling. This is actually sort of a joint deal, like a joint research agreement, but not really research. It's Amazon employees are going to use Slack for all of their internal stuff. And so that might actually make Amazon the largest customer of Slack. And IBM, with their 350,000 employees, is probably a distant second. But Slack needs a lot of infrastructure to be able to handle a huge volume of video calls, like Zoom and to a lesser extent Microsoft Teams. So Slack is like, all right, Microsoft has an unhealthy preoccupation with wanting us dead or replaced. Let's build in some video and voice chat features and make it even better.
And automatic cloud integration, because obviously if you do business with Amazon, it comes with it. Krista, what do you think about this logo?
The Slack logo? It's fine. It's fine.
Perfectly descriptive.
I wonder how much it cost. I wonder if it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars.
They redesigned it like maybe a year ago. My sense of time is so warped. It might have been like 5 years ago now. But
You're talking about the integration?
I remember reading about it, and it was like they put a lot of work into the other supplementary materials, but the logo itself is fine.
No, just the logo.
It's fine.
You think there's hundreds of millions of dollars in the logo?
Oh no, hundreds of thousands or millions.
Oh, okay. I think it's low.
Usually when you rebrand like a bigger company like this, you do a lot of other work, not just a logo.
Krista,
That's a misconception I see a lot in the public. They're like, they spent how much on just a logo? And it's like, well, that usually includes their website, all their print work, like branding, advertising campaign. Like,
let's say, Krista, that we put you at the head of a team. Let's say you got 10 people under you, artists, and guys who do graphic stuff, but you're the creative lead. And I'm giving you personally $250K to come up with a new logo. How obsessive are you going to become over that?
how many other projects am I dealing with at the same time?
Well, how greedy are you going to be? You get a year, you're going to make $250K, and it's going to be a year you get to work on it. Like, this is your only job. But it's got to be perfect.
Pretty obsessive. If that was the only thing I had to work on.
Would you stay up till 4 a.m.?
Probably.
The people I've known that have done projects like that have done crazy stuff where it's just like, oh, this week I'm flying to Milan to try to get inspiration at whatever. And it's like, do you just want to go to Milan? Or is like a real thing?
If you've got an expense budget.
I could see if you were like having a meeting to like go talk to the founders or something and you needed to fly out to their office, but I don't understand like team building playing Legos with the founders. Like, we don't need to spend the whole day.
Krista would just be out in the woods.
Yeah.
Now, this story, I was very curious when I clicked on it, and then I read the article, and I'm still curious because they didn't tell us anything.
Yeah, no.
This was like one big... Yeah. We have just the tiniest bit of detail, and even then it's like, well, how is that going to work?
I'm just going to make up the details. This is going to be one of those. It's like Sega reveals a new quote-unquote fog gaming program. We use the arcade machine somehow. It's like the Jonathan Frakes TV show where it's like 3 of the things are real and they made one of them up. So for this story, I'm going to make up and say that fog gaming is like Google Stadia, but instead of having servers hosted in a data center, Sega is actually going to use arcade machines in arcades that are shut down around the world. So arcades are only open 8 hours a day, 16 hours a day. There's no such thing as a 24-hour arcade. Those arcade machines are sitting idle in the arcades consuming electricity.
There's totally got to be 24-hour arcades.
Well, I'm just saying that's what they said in the article. It's like the fog is literally that army of arcade machines that are totally not going to be mining cryptocurrency and instead offering Stadia-like remote access to the games that are in the arcades.
But are modern arcade games packing that much horsepower?
No.
You got to think a Stadia server would just wipe the floor with an arcade game, right? So how Doesn't make any sense.
Most arcades aren't set up
Why?
to dissipate that much heat output from, a supercomputer cluster in an arcade cabinet.
Also, what? So this is in Japan. Obviously, we don't have that many arcade machines even in the U.S. Because are they still developing U.S. arcade games, or we just take whatever's popular in Japan? I guess.
I think it's got to be generic. Like, you have to have that generic development platform, because in the old days, every arcade game was designed differently, and then they standardized and were like, oh, we can use the same development libraries and save time and blah blah blah. But in the beginning, different PCBs, different design, because it was a cost-effective way to do that.
But if you go back through the MAME library, you quickly to figure out it's like, oh, they had like 5 archetypes for games, and they never deviated from that, because those were the ones that ate your quarters. And it was a fighting game, 1v1. There was the side scroller fighting game. There was the scrolling shooter of various kinds, and like maybe 10 others, and that was it. You didn't deviate.
A fun game that we might be able to play in a level 1 video is how many AMD EPIC cores can we stuff into the arcade cabinet that we have. It's probably like 200-300 cores. I mean, that's a pretty substantial amount of compute horsepower.
To play Frogger.
The problem is going to be cooling it. Well, to play Frogger and to also host an army of unwashed masses of gamers.
Can we frame unlocked Frogger and see how fast we can get it to run? Last week we talked about Uber Jump, and they were taking a bunch of their little scooters. Were they scooters or bikes?
They were electric bikes, technically.
Bikes, yeah. And they said, we don't need these anymore. We could donate them, but that would hurt the business model. So we're going to destroy them. And we all thought that was kind of sad, but not unusual,
Wasteful.
it would seem.
Bird is scrapping thousands of electric scooters in the Middle East. Between 8,000 and 10,000 e-scooters are being destroyed in the Middle East by the California scooter sharing startup Bird, according to sources. Why?
Poor little guys.
It was not a popular option, apparently.
Well, the lockdown. Nobody's scooting around in the lockdown.
Won't we need them after the lockdown?
We'll make new ones.
Yeah, screw all the resources we put into those first ones. Just dump them.
Now, starting into the robot section, this one was more exciting when I read the headline than the reality, because it's not a reality.
No.
It's just actually somebody's crazy idea. But it could work, I guess.
Stanford lab envisions delivery drones that save energy by taking the bus. Wait, how do they take the bus? They literally just land on the bus, and then they take off from the bus once the bus gets nearer to wherever they're going.
I'm imagining like an angry bus driver with a broom, like, get out of here, stupid drones. And they hover up just enough to avoid it. And as soon as he gets back in, they settle back down. So yeah, they figured out that bus routes are predictable. So if you just host your drone there and wait till it gets near an address that's close enough for its radius, it can just hop off, make the delivery, and come back.
That'll be a funny thing in movies of the future, is like you put a transponder on your boss's car because you don't like him, to make the drones think it's a bus, and so he's got the he's got the really nice sports car, but the drones keep landing on it.
He has to put on the windshield wipers to get them off.
It's like, what's going on?
And this one, after reading it, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That is something that I've never considered, but automating that does make a lot of sense. It seems like, because now we have natural language processing and voice recognition, and we've got this AI. Why do we need doctors anymore, right? Chris, I think this could be very important for you.
Yes. iRobot. Artificial intelligence dramatically improves accuracy of classic eye exam.
So they're talking about the chart with the giant E on it, having that done by robot. It's like one or two.
That's the Snellen chart.
Yeah.
Terrible name.
Do you think you would be more or less terrified of saying the wrong thing?
Well,
if it
that's
was a
so
robot?
they point that out, that when you're taking that chart, you kind of get that sort of exam anxiety, and you want to get the answer right. But that makes no sense, because your vision will be worse if you guess. But people still tend to do that. But the AI one works a little bit differently. So it doesn't give you the opportunity to memorize or guess as much as the Snellen chart. somehow.
It's 74% accurate, which is a much better accuracy, which is kind of scary. It's like, it's like, hey, let's do. Maybe that's why the doctors, because sometimes I think they're just trolling me, and they're like, which one's better, 1 or 2? And then they're like, okay, now 2 or 1, and it's like, I didn't change anything.
I always say I can't tell a difference, and sometimes I'll get the impression that he was angry about that. Bro, I'm sorry.
My doctor, I'll make her repeat it. I'm like, can you do it again? And I'll do it like 2 or 3 times, and that probably annoys the hell out of her. But
it's like, I don't know which one's better. One of them burns my eyes.
Walmart. If you needed another reason to never go back to a Walmart,
people at Walmart.com.
If the virus isn't enough for you, if the kids running around with nothing but diapers on and people beating them, if the terrible fashion choices sometimes aren't enough to drive you away, how about the fact that you're being judged by a robot as you check out?
Walmart employees are out to show its anti-shoplifting AI doesn't work. The retailer denies there is any widespread issue of the software. And this article is mostly a response from Walmart saying that this isn't really an issue, but the employees actually are able to demonstrate, yeah, it kind of is.
So they pointed out several examples of it missing obvious ones. So they had one guy who had 2 things of peanut butter cups, scanned them as a whole, like one on top of the other, drop them in the bag. AI made no. Then there was a guy that had 2 jugs of milk, slid them at the same time, but in a way that only one barcode would catch. But how does the scale not catch that?
Yeah, with
they
2
must not
gallons
have
of
very
milk.
good scales at Walmart.
Yeah, I don't know. But they put these obvious examples in the video, and then they put in some of the false positives, which were worse because they claimed that every false positive, whoever's watching has to dispatch someone or go themselves and intervene when that person as they're walking out, which during a pandemic, not great.
Sort of bad.
I gotta wonder though, do you think? Go ahead.
Have you been to Walmart recently, like in the last 6 months?
I haven't been in the last 2 years.
I have.
So you can actually they have a camera set up. So it's projecting your face on the screen while you do your self-checkout. It's very strange. I don't know why they do that. I guess they think that it's
Purely
going to
psychological.
deter you. I don't know. I don't like
just to
it.
let you know that we're watching.
Yeah, that's actually a well-documented psychological thing. Is like when there's a pair of eyes, like just pictures of pairs of eyes, you have the feeling of being watched, and you're less likely to do things.
It is weird.
Now,
I don't like it.
Here's the question though: if Walmart's doing this, what's everybody else doing?
Probably something even more invasive.
Yeah. Do we just know about Walmart doing it?
Because it's so bad.
I gotta think that Walmart, though, because of their position in their demographic, let's say, they are more apt to shrinkage.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's everywhere.
Did Walmarts get looted?
I don't know. Target definitely did.
I saw Target in Minneapolis did.
Well, robots, the thing that seems to be holding them back and has been for a long time is their grip. They either, can't flail around and get a hold of something, or when they do, they destroy it with their angry robot energy. So the Holy Grail is a robot who can be as delicate as a human can. And we've seen a lot of different solutions to this, but these are 2 that are maybe the cutting edge.
MIT builds robot hand that can, quote-unquote, see and feel objects as fragile as a crisp, and a major breakthrough. Now, a crisp, for those of you, because this is in the UK, that's a potato chip.
Could be a rice chip.
Could be a rice chip. The picture is misleading, though. This picture, this looks like 2 fingers with touch pads. Not actually what it is. It's this sort of weird suction thing, which we covered before, but the weird suction thing now also has a sense of touch, whereas it didn't before. So it knows how hard to, vacuum suction onto those potato chips.
And there was another one. I don't know if they have the picture of the other one.
It's at the top.
But the other one was...
more traditional.
But this blue thing here was sort of a membrane of sensory. So that it could tell when, that's an edge, or, I'm not touching anything down here. And that made it more apt to hold things gently, but with enough force to lift them.
Yeah. It's like, I can tell this thing is deforming under the strength of my grip. I should probably not grip it so hard.
That'd be good for when they're taking care of the old Japanese people. And for a while there, the self-driving experiments stopped because who wants to get into a little portable germ center, portable virus center? No one wants to do that. So they took them off the streets, but the real purpose of those wasn't to shuttle people around. It was to gather data and continue to build the robot master race. And now they figured out a reason to get them back out there.
Waymo to bring self-driving minivans back to the Bay Area. But don't worry, it's not for passengers. No one's allowed to get in them. It's just for data.
How do you think protesters... Well, I think they're going to deliver packages, right? It's going to be like charity packages or something.
I think there's also a driver, maybe.
Art kits to children, lighthouse for the blind and visually impaired, and some other stuff. It's like kid charities or something.
Yeah, backup drivers they have as well.
Now, what do you think would happen if an angry protest mob encountered an empty Waymo?
I think they shut down.
Or will they destroy it?
No, I mean, they just... Oh, yeah, they probably would set it on fire.
But there's no person in there. It's not an authority.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you're like a cab driver and it's like, oh, those guys are going to take my job in a year or two, the temptation to set it on fire is probably very real.
You think there's a cab driver undertone to the protest? Maybe a reason to get out there if you're a cab driver. You might be able to target a robot if you're in the Bay Area.
So got some bad news for you, though. Burning the car doesn't destroy the software. That software's in the cloud. You're not really accomplishing anything.
I don't think they've. Well, I mean, as of this recording, I don't think anything was destroyed on Saturday.
Yeah, it seems
they
like
took down a few like Confederate statues, but like other than that, like no one's destroyed any businesses or cars or.
But that was like a legislative decision, right? Did they pull them down?
No, they pulled them down in some places.
Okay, well, but they were scheduled to come down anyway, right?
Only one that I know of.
No, it was Virginia. And was it North Carolina? There was another place. There was Robert E.
Britain
Lee.
is getting action as well, I think.
There was one place where the mob was trying to remove the statue, and the mayor came out and was like, "This is dangerous. Somebody could fall on somebody and get hurt. Just give me 24 hours and I'll get rid of it properly." And the mob said, "Okay." And then he did. So that was kind of a feel-good story.
Do you think they'll auction those off?
Yeah.
What's that worth? What's Robert E. Lee worth?
They should go in a museum. Like, there's no reason for them to be put in like a public place of honor, but they should go in a museum.
You gonna put that in your museum right now?
I'm sure there's probably Civil War museums somewhere around the country.
They're going to be burned tomorrow as soon as somebody figures it out. You put that headline in the newspaper, and they're like, "Oh, you've given me the address of the museum? Thank you." Well, once again, some people don't know that the virus has been canceled. And here they are. They've got egg on their face because that's not a thing anymore. We've decided as a country we're not doing that anymore. So why bother with this?
Hello and welcome, robot waiters to the rescue amid the virus. So, the robot waiters will bring you your food and your drink from the wait staff is what I was going to say, but it's not really. It's not really the chef. It's just the restaurant staff. Restaurant staff will load up the robots and say, "Hey, robot, table 37, here's your sushi."
Also, I don't know if you noticed, they give this one a scarf, but not this one, so you can tell them apart. But there's no articulation there. So you're going to be unloading and loading those trays yourself.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
But if you're in a large party and you're not, it's people you don't know that well, that means everybody's touching your plate.
Oh, yeah, that's disconcerting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't really solve the problem. Though I think, aren't restaurants supposed to be at like 33% capacity right now anyway?
I guess.
I would love to have a robot chef at home that could make nice meals with minimal effort, like load the food into the dispenser 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and then it just does everything. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, but so many recipes are in stages. It's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Like
it takes 10 minutes to cook this, but then you have to spend like an hour prepping all the vegetables and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, I got the Instant Pot, and I'm always looking for recipes where it's just like pile a bunch of shit in the Instant Pot and turn it on. But those are almost non-existent.
Yeah.
There's always a series of steps. It turns out cooking is hard. You also have to load. I'm sorry, Krista, what?
I just said cooking well is hard.
That's true. There's this channel I've been watching on YouTube. It's the Should I Try? Have you seen that channel? It's this guy. He's in a restaurant. I guess it's like a restaurant he owns or whatever. But he takes popular meme recipes that other YouTubers or Twitch people have done or whatever, and he recreates them, or he just makes his own recipe, and he is terrible at it. And I can't tell if it's a troll or not, but it's like, it makes you angry how bad he is at cooking these things in this restaurant environment. I can't stop watching it. I don't know. There's something there. And finally, this could have been a tragic story. I don't think anybody got hurt though, so it's okay for us to make fun of. And this is not the first time this has happened. This seems to be a considerable blind spot in the old Tesla software, which is, of course, the overturned semi.
Tesla Model 3 drives straight into an overturned truck in what seems to be an autopilot failure. This is in Taiwan, so there's not a great translation, but you can see that
Look how much it moves it.
Yeah, it brakes a little bit there when it's close to the guy on the side of the road, and then it seems to let off the brakes.
But is that brake, or is it just because there's debris in the road from the truck?
I don't know. I thought it was braking, but maybe not.
It might be. Bang. Wow.
Some of the comments say too that the airbag, like none of the airbags went off.
Yeah, the
Really?
airbags not deploying was really surprising here.
So this person wasn't hurt?
No, they hit the top of the truck, which is relatively soft, and their impact was softened by what looks like custard.
Yeah. So obviously, wow, got pretty deep there. Obviously, this person was paying zero attention because how much reaction time is that? Like 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's plenty of time to slow down. At the very least, slow down, even if you can't stop all the way.
So unfortunate. Really got in there. Amazing that nobody was hurt by that, or killed, I should say. Also, you got to give it up for the Tesla. It took that impact like a champ.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another picture that has like what it did to the front, which was, yeah, it's like the, I guess the decelerating custard really saved the day. That was the contents of the truck. I don't know.
Yeah, no airbags is
Disconcerting.
that's worrying if you're a Tesla owner. Hey, listen, people. Stage 2. We're at stage 2. We need to be at 5 before you do this. That's a big gap, a huge gap. We were on schedule to have that by the end of the year, right?
On schedule. Here come the downvotes.
All right. Friday gonna be whatever we haven't done yet. Security. And
Security
of course,
and nonsense.
Nonsense.
See you Friday.